An amateur hacker unexpectedly lands a hacking contract from a client. While carrying out the job, he stumbles upon something far bigger than he imagined, setting off a chain of events that turns his life upside down. The story is framed through an interrogation scene where NSA agents Wallace and Peterson question a man named Charles Dark, accusing him of breaking into a classified government system and stealing sensitive data. Charles repeatedly denies any involvement, claiming ignorance. The narrative then shifts to a flashback from a month earlier, introducing Will, a young amateur hacker who strongly believes that all information on the internet should be freely accessible. Driven by curiosity, he routinely breaks into various systems, treating hacking almost like a hobby, cracking Wi-Fi networks, bypassing telecom systems for unlimited benefits, and exploring digital spaces without restraint. Alongside his personal exploits, he also takes paid hacking contracts, acting like a freelance cyber investigator for clients who hire him for digital intrusion tasks. One day, a businessman named Gordon approaches Will with a new job offer, drawing him deeper into a network of risky and unknown consequences. Gordon suspects his wife is cheating on him, so he hires Will to hack into their home system and extract any sensitive data from her phone and laptop. He promises to pay a large sum regardless of whether Will finds anything or not. Will agrees and begins the job. Although he is a skilled hacker, breaking into a house network requires physically installing a hacking device into the home's electrical system, something he cannot build alone. He turns to his partner Decimate, an electrical engineering expert who understands how to manipulate and exploit power systems for network access. Decimate shares Will's belief that information should be free and regularly assists him in hacking operation. Using his technical expertise, Decimate builds a specialized device designed for intrusion through electrical lines. Will then secretly installs it in Gordon's house network. He knows the easiest entry point into modern home systems is often the television connection, since smart TVs are linked to Wi-Fi and can bridge access to all connected devices in the house. By compromising the TV network, the entire home system can be exposed. According to Will, the optimal time to activate the device is between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. when network activity is lowest and detection risk is minimal. Because everyone in the house is asleep at that hour, the TV network can be rebooted using the installed device. During this reboot, which lasts about a minute, the firewall temporarily becomes inactive since it only fully loads at the end of the restart process. That brief window is enough for Will to gain access to the entire system. After installing the device in Gordon's house, Will leaves and heads to a library to monitor everything remotely. Once the setup is complete, he successfully connects to the home network and gains control over all connected devices, including Gordon's wife's computer. From there, he can see just how dangerous a skilled hacker can be. While exploring her inbox, Will discovers emails from a man named Sam Novak. He even impersonates Gordon's wife and sends a reply with images attached from her account. Later, Will meets his friends at a cafe, including Decimate and a few others. During the conversation, he casually brings up a secretive organization called Emergency. One of his friends explains that it is a highly classified U.S. government agency operating under NSA oversight, believed to have access to massive amounts of citizen data. After they leave, Will tells another friend, Pseudonym, that he has managed to infiltrate the personal network of Sam Novak, who is actually the chief technology officer of Emergency, revealing that Gordon's wife's contact is linked to a powerful government official. After hearing that Will has hacked the network, Pseudonym panics and immediately urges him to leave. She points out that Will used neighboring Wi-Fi connections to carry out the breach, meaning it could be traced quickly. Given that Emergency has massive surveillance capabilities and access to huge data resources, they are likely to detect the intrusion soon, putting everyone involved at risk. Realizing the danger, Will returns to his place. Meanwhile, after accessing Sam Novak's network, he manages to break into the Emergency servers and begins downloading a large number of classified programs. While he understands most of them, one program called Shaper confuses him completely. Since it is Linux-based, Will goes to his Linux expert friend Decimate for help. Decimate is surprised that Will even managed to breach a government-level server. He studies the Shaper program and explains that it is attempting to open an SSH channel to connect with another server, requiring a login password that can only be tried 3 times. An SSH channel, as he explains, allows secure encrypted communication between systems, making the program undetectable once connected. To understand what server Shaper is trying to reach, they would need direct access to it. Will begins to realize that analyzing something this sensitive in a public or unsecured environment is a bad idea. Will says goodbye to Decimate and moves to a highly isolated location where no radio signals can escape. As soon as he enters the room, he lines all the walls with aluminum foil to block any wireless communication from leaking outside. With the signal fully contained, he returns to analyzing the mysterious Shaper program on his laptop. However, the code is so complex that even his system struggles to interpret it. He learns that it could potentially be understood using a method called Cartesian logic, but that process alone would take more than a week. To make progress faster, he realizes they must isolate at least one component of the program and trace the IP address of the server Shaper is trying to connect to. While they are working on this plan, they leave the location for the day. Meanwhile, during Will's absence, agents arrive and detain Decimate, accusing him of unauthorized access to a government system. The cafe Wi-Fi hack has now put all responsibility on Will's shoulders. At the same time, while walking outside, Will notices smoke coming from his apartment. When he reaches closer, he sees the place is actually on fire. He begins to suspect that emergency has discovered him. Confused and alarmed, with no clear direction, Will returns once again to the cafe, trying to figure out his next move. Pseudonym lashes out at Will, blaming him for Decimate's arrest and reminding him that she warned him not to mess with emergency in the first place. Frustrated and emotional, she tells him off and asks him to leave immediately. With no one else left to rely on, Will turns to his last ally, Decimate's partner Bit-chan. Feeling isolated and rejected by everyone else, he spends the night at Bit-chan's place. The next morning, while discussing the situation, they realize something crucial. The hacking device Will previously installed in Gordon's house could be replicated to mislead emergency. If they deploy a similar setup in another home and route access to the Shaper program through it, they could bait emergency agents into revealing themselves. While Bit-chan is initially hesitant, he eventually agrees. They choose a target, Robert Martin, and Will installs the device in his home network, hijacking the Wi-Fi and routing access to Shaper remotely. From a safe distance, they monitor the house using cameras. Soon, they witness agents arriving and forcibly detaining Martin, confirming that emergency has reacted. Will and Bit-chan quickly capture the vehicle's license plate. They then retreat to Bit-chan's place and use the Tor network to trace the server's IP address, ensuring their own location remains untraceable even through Wi-Fi activity. Will uses the Tor network, similar to a VPN, to anonymously trace and retrieve the server's IP address. However, the license plate they captured earlier turns out to be fake, making it completely useless for tracking the agents. Eventually, Will manages to obtain an IP address, but he still cannot access the Shaper program through it because the system is heavily protected and requires multiple layered connections. To break through, he begins using a method called port knocking, where he sequentially sends connection requests to specific ports in a precise order to unlock access. By carefully completing this sequence, he is able to identify the final target server that Shaper is trying to reach. Even then, access is blocked by a password requirement. Needing help, Will goes back to Decimate. However, Decimate's reaction is strange and distant from their earlier meeting. When Will arrives and explains that he has found the IP, Decimate surprises him by reciting the exact IP address without even looking. Shocked, Will asks how he knows it. Decimate reveals that he works not only as a hacker but also for government agencies and multinational corporations, giving him access to such restricted data. He even implies that he already knows the password needed to access the Shaper system. Will asks Decimate for the password, but he warns that Shaper is a highly dangerous program that, if exposed publicly, would cause massive chaos. He also tells Will that he won't like what he sees inside. Despite the warning, Will insists, and Decimate eventually gives him the password. However, he urges Will to stop investigating further, saying people could get seriously harmed because of it. Bit-chan, on the other hand, pushes Will to continue, arguing that since he has come this far, he has a responsibility to finish it. If Shaper is truly a harmful surveillance system, the world deserves to know the truth. Influenced by Bit-chan's reasoning, Will accesses Shaper again from a hidden location. After logging in, what he sees shocks him completely. Shaper is a massive tracking tool used by the US government to monitor any citizen at any time, effectively eliminating all personal privacy. To test it, Will searches for Decimate and discovers detailed real-time data, including live footage of his current situation. Meanwhile, agents Peterson and Wallace interrogate Hesh, subjecting him to intense pressure and torture. They accuse him of attempting to access a classified government system and claim the act is unforgivable. They also reveal that Hesh was seen receiving a laptop from someone named Will. By this point, Will realizes the authorities already know about him. At first, they had access to all his data, But after he used the Tor network, he managed to hide his identity. Now, the agents are interrogating Hesh, trying to extract Will's location. However, under extreme torture, Hesh refuses to reveal anything. Watching this, Will closes his laptop and goes to Pseudonym's cafe. But like before, she refuses to engage with him. Frustrated, Will opens his laptop inside the cafe and addresses everyone present, asking if they would be comfortable knowing that the NSA constantly monitors them and has access to all their personal data. Most people dismiss it, and one man named Eddie argues that it doesn't matter because they aren't doing anything illegal. Will then casually asks him what he did last night and immediately reveals he watched a Netflix movie, shocking everyone with his accuracy. He then explains Shaper, revealing that with its access he can track any American citizen in real time. He also exposes that the NSA and Homeland Security are torturing an innocent man named Jared Martin simply on suspicion, meaning anyone could become a target at any moment. Hearing this, Pseudonym confronts him, asking why he is saying all this publicly, warning that his actions are putting everyone at risk. Will tells Pseudonym that Hesh is still being held by Homeland Security, and if they don't act quickly, things could get worse, or he might even be killed. He believes he and Bitchan can break into the system, but he needs Pseudonym's help for the extraction plan. He asks her to stay with them, and once Hesh is freed, she will drive them out. After Will shows her Hesh's condition on his laptop, she finally agrees to help. Will then prepares fake documents, perfectly forged, to show that he is a federal officer assigned to transfer Hesh and Martin to another prison. Disguised as a government official, he enters the Homeland Security facility and hands over the paperwork, claiming he is there for prisoner transfer. The documents are so convincing that the receptionist accepts them without suspicion. She informs him that Martin is no longer in custody and that only Hesh remains available for transfer. In reality, Martin has already died under interrogation, but the NSA and Homeland Security have covered it up to avoid public outrage. Will is handed Hesh, who is severely weakened from torture. He quickly gets him into Pseudonym's car and drives away. Meanwhile, agents Peterson and Wallace discover Hesh is missing and realize someone has outsmarted their system and extracted him. Immediately after the escape, Homeland Security launches a full-scale manhunt, deploying teams to locate Will and the others. Meanwhile, Will takes Hesh and Pseudonym to Decimate's house, as they have nowhere else to go. When they arrive, Decimate is initially reluctant to let them in, but after hearing about Hesh's condition and the situation, he finally agrees. He is shocked that Will managed to extract Hesh from federal custody, but at the same time, he is angry because their actions are now putting him at risk as well. Will is surprised to find Bitchan already there. Hesh, badly injured from torture, is barely conscious and lies in a corner of the room. Will then tells Decimate that he intends to publicly expose Shaper, believing government surveillance is a violation of basic privacy rights. Decimate disagrees, arguing that fighting government agencies is pointless and that surveillance is justified for national security. Bitchan, however, supports Will. The argument continues until night falls and everyone falls asleep. The next morning, Decimate wakes them up and reveals that NSA agents are waiting outside. It turns out he had informed them and has been working with them all along. Before they can react, agents storm in and arrest Will, Hesh, and Pseudonym. As Bitchan breaks down in tears, Decimate tells her to stay calm. He explains that everything was part of a larger plan and that Will and the others were never in real danger, although he refuses to reveal the details of that plan. In the next scene, Gordon reappears, revealing that his initial request for Will to hack his wife's laptop was actually the beginning of the entire scheme. He is seen speaking on the phone, coordinating a meeting with Will after his capture. Around 20 days later, Gordon visits Will in custody. At that moment, Will realizes everything has been orchestrated and that he was being tested all along. The hacking job was actually a recruitment process for the NSA, where hackers are evaluated under pressure and even subjected to torture to test their resilience and skills. Those who survive and succeed are offered positions within the agency. Gordon offers Will the same deal, saying he will gain wealth, stability, and respect if he agrees. Will questions how he can trust them after everything that happened and the fate of his friends. Gordon assures him that Hesh and Pseudonym are still alive and were not killed. Hearing this, Will finally agrees to work for them. The story ends revealing this entire setup as an elite government recruitment process for hackers.